Have you ever just stood there looking at your porch and thinking, man, this space could be so much more? You know, you can almost see it. A cozy reading nook, a sunny spot for breakfast, maybe even your new favorite home office. It is such a fantastic dream, right? But it always comes crashing back to one huge question. What is this actually going to cost me? Well, today, let's find out.
So here's our game plan. We're going to walk through 6 key stages. We'll start with a big picture, figure out what kind of project you're even talking about, then dive into the real price tags. We'll also look at what drives those costs up or down, cover the hidden expenses people always forget, and wrap it all up with a clear action plan so you can move forward feeling totally confident.
All right, so where do we even begin? Before you can get a single quote or even a ballpark number, you've got to bring that dream of yours down to earth and ground it in reality.
And it all boils down to this. This is the absolute crucial point. The single most important thing that's going to determine your budget isn't the size of your porch or the style of your house. It's how you plan to use the finished room. Is this just for breezy spring days, or is it a year-round living space that's going to add real, usable square footage to your home? Your answer to that question, it changes absolutely everything.
That one decision will lead you down one of 3 very different paths. So let's break down the 3 fundamental types of porch enclosures you can choose from.
This table lays it out perfectly. First, you've got your simple window enclosure. It's exactly what it sounds like, just adding windows to your existing porch for some basic weather protection. Think of it as a bug-free, rain-free zone. Then, there's the 3-season room. This is a big step up. It's better sealed, it's more finished, but there's no real heating or cooling. And then, you have the 4-season room. This is basically a full-blown home edition. We're talking insulated, heated, cooled, and usable any single day of the year. This is the one that really adds to your home's livable square footage and resale value. And you can see right there how the cost just climbs with that complexity.
Okay, now that you get the different types, let's get to the part you've been waiting for, the price tag. Let's talk real numbers and break down what these projects actually cost. For that most basic option, just adding some windows to a porch that's already in good shape, you could be looking at a cost of up to $15,000. Now, if you want to upgrade to that more robust 3-season room, well, that price tag can jump pretty significantly, potentially hitting as high as $35,000.
And for a true, fully finished 4-season room that's a genuine extension of your home, yeah, that cost can easily soar past $80,000.
Okay, whoa. I know that last number probably caused a bit of sticker shock, but let's put it in context, because it's not the whole story. This chart shows the full range. Look, a simple project can actually start at just a few $1,000s. A 3-season room often gets going around $10,000, and that 4-season room, while it can get expensive, typically starts in the $20,000 range. The key takeaway here is that every category has a wide spectrum of costs, and there are more accessible entry points for each one.
You know, another really helpful way to budget is to think in cost per square foot. A basic enclosure might run you, say, $30 to $100 per square foot. But when you get into a high-end, fully conditioned 4-season room, you're looking at more like $100 to $300 per square foot, maybe even more. This helps you scale the estimate to your exact porch size and lets you compare different contractor bids on a real apples-to-apples basis.
Let's make this even more real. Let's take a common 10 by 12 foot porch. That's 120 square feet. Here's what you might expect. A simple conversion could be somewhere between $4,000 and $11,000. That same porch as a 3-season room, probably $10,000 to $25,000. And as a full 4-season edition, well, your budget would likely land somewhere between $20,000 and $60,000. So that brings up a really good question, right? How in the world can the exact same 120 square foot space have such a massive difference in price? Well, as they say, the devil is in the details. So, let's dig into the key variables that contractors are looking at when they put your quote together.
First up, and this is a big one, never, ever underestimate the cost of labor. For a lot of these projects, the cost of skilled pros, carpenters, electricians, installers, can actually be the single largest line item in your budget. This is especially true in areas where labor rates are high.
Beyond labor, these are the other major things that drive the cost. The window system you pick is huge. Basic vinyl is way cheaper than high-performance fiberglass. How complex is the framing and matching your home's siding? That matters. And the condition of your existing foundation and roof is absolutely critical. If they need to be beefed up, your costs are going to jump. And of course, adding full HVAC and electrical, plus high-end interior finishes like drywall and nice flooring, all of that is going to push that final price up.
Okay, now a contractor's quote is really just one piece of the puzzle. There are other really important expenses you need to plan for that honestly often get overlooked.
Yeah, you really have to account for these items. Building permits can cost hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars. If you're changing the structure, you might need an engineer to draw up plans. If you live in a coastal area, you might be required by code to get expensive storm-rated windows. And then there are things like new doors, exterior trim, and upgraded insulation. It all adds to that bottom line.
And this right here might be the single most important tip for any renovation project. Always, and I mean always, have a contingency fund. Setting aside an extra 10 to 20% of your total project cost is crucial. This is your safety net for all the surprises that inevitably pop up once you start opening up walls. Things like hidden rot, insect damage, or foundation problems you had no idea existed. This is what keeps your project on track and stops your budget from spiraling out of control.
Phew, okay, we've covered a ton of ground. So let's pull all this information together into a simple, empowering checklist you can use to get started.
Here are your next steps, plain and simple. First, you have to decide. Make a firm choice on what type of room you want based on how you're going to use it. Second, get at least 3 detailed, written bids from licensed contractors so you can really compare them fairly. Third, do your homework. Check with your town about permits and with your HOA about any rules. And finally, before a single hammer swings, make sure you have that 10 to 20% contingency fund set aside and ready to go.
When you really think about it, it all boils down to this. The source material puts it perfectly. Defining the intended use of the room and obtaining detailed contractor estimates are the critical next steps. If you can get those two things right from the start, you are on the path to a reliable budget and a really successful project.
So, the final question is really for you. Now that you have a clear picture of the costs, the different variables, and the whole process, which of these paths, the simple enclosure, the 3-season room, or that full 4-season addition, is the right one to transform your space, your home, and your budget?